Welcome to another episode of On the Move with Margaret, where I interview inspiring women who inspire me, and hopefully they'll inspire you as well. And today I've got a very special person coming all the way from London. So this is such an international program now because I've got Claudine in London, I've got myself in Florida, and most of my listeners in South Africa, Australia, and around the world. So welcome to my show, and I hope you're really going to enjoy the chat today. I met Claudine when she entered Mrs. South Africa as one of the contestants, and I was amazed to see a comedian. And I just think how fantastic to be a comedian. I would love to be one myself because I love making people laugh, and it's just such a wonderful thing. So Claudine, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. And can I just say, Margaret, you have exactly what it takes to be a comedian. You're hilarious, you're confident, and you are like beautifully, authentically you. And if you can do that, you can perform on any bloody stage. You're fine.
Now, they call you the world's chief comedic officer, and that's quite a title to have. How did that come about?
So that is actually a very interesting story, because what used to happen is I do corporate training, and I would go into corporates and say, I'm a comedian, and I use comedy and storytelling and humor techniques to train senior leadership teams and stuff like that. And the first thing that they would say is, tell us a joke. And then I was like, wait, this title is putting me in the wrong rooms. It's putting me in the wrong rooms, and it's people don't understand what they're getting, and it's confusing. So I was like, I deal with senior leadership teams. I am the chief executive of my own company, and I am the chief comedic officer to other companies. So it made complete sense for me to change my title so that people know what they're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just go back to Claudine in the old days when you were growing up. Tell us where you grew up and where you went to school and your university, that type of thing. So people know a bit about you. I know quite a lot about you, but the people watching may not know about you. So tell us about Claudine growing up and how it all evolved.
Well, I grew up in Johannesburg. I am a Joburg girl through and through. I went and I studied performance at university. And how I got here is actually quite an interesting story, because in 2008, when I finished university and I finished drama school, I went to go and see one of the top agents in the country, and I took my 2 little lines worth of CV. I was so bloody proud. And this agent took one look at me. He didn't even look at the bloody CV. He didn't even ask me to perform. He said, Claudine, you're too large to be in the industry.
No. Oh
Yes,
my
he
God.
did. Yes, he did. And I'm telling you, those words stuck with me like a record player. On any time I had to audition for something, there was always this feeling of body dysmorphia, not being good enough, trying to fit in. And then in 2021 in Johannesburg, as lots of people in Johannesburg can relate, I was hijacked at gunpoint. And it took 2 guns on the side of my head like this for me to go, I need to start living my life to the fullest, and I need to get over this. And so I entered Mrs. South Africa. Now, let me tell you, Margaret, you were there at every single stage of the process of the journey. You were with me. You saw that for the finals of Mrs. South Africa, they chose white costumes.
Well, we call it in America bathing suits, because I said to my friend, bring a costume. She said, are we going to a Halloween party? So I said, no. So it's a bathing suit, they call it.
So they chose white bathing suits for the swimsuit section. Now, let me tell you something. Nothing will get you over your body dysmorphia faster than walking a bloody runway in a see-through white costume on national television. But there are still times today that I wish that the SABC burnt down, so that that final, I never have to see that final ever again. And I never have to see some of the stuff that I was, performing and working on as I was like finding my voice. But what Mrs. South Africa taught me is the thing that I was afraid to share.
Yes.
The thing that I was hiding from the world was actually the thing that made me impossible to ignore.
Really, hey, yeah.
100%. That is the thing that made me impossible to ignore. And now, um, in August, actually, I've decided I'm coming back to South Africa for Women's Month
Yes.
because I am coming back to install the systems and the frameworks for women in South Africa,
Yeah.
know, and to discover what it is about them that is sexy, unique, gorgeous, stunning, beautiful Margaret that no AI can ever replace.
Yes, absolutely.
Or who is it that they are afraid to show up as? And if they can show up as that in their lives and in their business, they will become completely bloody unstoppable. So that's the
Absolutely.
mission, and that's how I got here.
Now, through humor and storytelling and all your authentic human connection, you help leaders and entrepreneurs to improve their businesses. So when you go into a business, you have a look at it, and often I look at them, and everybody's got miserable faces, and I experienced it here where it was a toxic atmosphere, and there was
Mm.
one person who was causing it, and as soon as they removed her, it changed the whole atmosphere of the company. I'm sure when you walk in, you can sort of see what the problem is. How do you go about, first of all, identifying the problem and then solving the problem?
Well, first of all, every company is unique. Their needs are unique. Their team and corporate dynamics are unique. So I always customize whatever program I am doing or whatever system I'm implementing. But actually, what you start to see when you do the sort of work again and again and again is that the same sorts of issues come up within teams. And, whether it's dealing with internal communications or external communications, the importance of being able to tell a story
Yeah,
and connect
yeah,
and be relatable is possibly the most important aspect in terms of your business, not only for your personal brand, but for your company brand. So that's uh, that's obviously a huge part of what I teach. And the humor side of it, a lot of people will say, "Oh, Claudine, I'm not a comedian."
yeah,
But what that is that is allowing you. You don't need to be a comedian to be this
yeah,
sort of work, because
yeah,
you need to be able to be authentic. And what
yes.
it allows you to do, the humor allows you to show up as your most authentic self and be completely relatable.
Now, sometimes laughter, and people have always say you have a nervous laugh, ha 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 ha, when you don't know what to do. But that is really to hide the self doubt, the imposter syndrome. You sort of pushing that down and putting the ha 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 on the top. How do you get people over that they actually genuinely laugh and are happy about being at work?
Well, let's take you, because you're on the
Yeah,
call. If
yeah,
I can show Margaret, although I feel like you have this down to a T, but if I can really show you
yeah,
what your superpowers are,
yes,
what you're brilliant at, how
yes,
to access your creative genius, I am telling you now, there are no nerves, because
yes,
you're not playing a role. You're not censoring yourself. You're not trying to be someone else. You're
yes,
showing up as you, brilliant, beautiful, amazing you. You're hired, you're in the team because you're really good at this thing. So, how do you bring your full self to that role? And I promise you, the nerves 100% dissipate because you're showing up in your full power. And once you do that, the part of the brain that says, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I can't speak out, I can't show up fully, actually switches off. And the creative genius, the center that is responsible for saying, yes, and yes, I can do it, accessing my superpowers, is
yes,
what actually lights up.
yes,
So once you lean into that, it becomes a no-brainer. There's no hiding, there's no falsities,
yes.
you know?
Yeah. So, but just go back to you when that guy said you're too big to be on that. I mean, that's every woman's greatest fear, that somebody will say you are too big. And, that's why everybody's swallowing the Ozempic and Manjaro and all those things now so that they're not too big. How did you actually get over that and be able to walk out as yourself in the white swimsuit for Mrs. South Africa? How did you talk to yourself to get over that?
So that took a lot. And let me tell you, I don't know how many of you have ever been looked directly in the eye, yet felt completely unseen, because that is exactly what happened when he said those words to me, "You're too large." And every because also obviously I started off as a comedian and an actor and a performer. So every role I didn't get, I thought it was because I wasn't playing the right part. And even if you look at my early comedy, oof, I can cringe because it was me playing a role. It was me trying to be the perfect actor or the perfect comedian or do comedy the way everybody else does comedy.
Yeah.
And it just didn't fit. It didn't resonate. It's moments like those that I felt nervous, that I felt unprepared, that I felt like this isn't for me. Whereas what happened with Mrs. South Africa is I was like, look, I didn't enter this for the crown.
Yeah.
Some women enter it for the crown and they, if they don't win, it's soul crushing. There is a clip of me. They announced top 10. I don't make top 10. I am jolling at the back. I am dancing. I'm partying. And the reason why is because what I needed to get out of that competition, I got and then some. And what I got was, if I can show up authentically as me, I've won. I've won. I don't need a bloody crown. And let me tell you something, on the back of that competition and on the back of me finding my voice and on the back of me showing up authentically, my business has exploded. I've moved to London. I work with huge international corporates now. It's just like a whole nother level of me functioning as the highest version of myself. So it wasn't even me needing to tell myself something to answer your question. It was me needing to step into the highest version of Claudine
Mm-hmm.
and play that role
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
A lot of the work I do is because I'm a trained actress. So the work I do is using method acting techniques. Beyonce, when she goes out on stage, she doesn't show up as Beyonce. She shows up as the highest version of Beyonce, Sasha Fierce. She's playing that role,
Yeah.
So a part of what I do and part of what I've done for myself and for my clients is to not only help them, define who that version is, but help them embody it and help them live it.
Now, there's so many women out there who are living their lives becoming what they think other people want them to be, and I think at all stages of our life, we thought, well, this is what people want me to be. This is not what I want to be. And I think the nice thing about being old, people say, oh, getting old is not for sissies. But the nice thing about being older is that you know yourself so well and you know what you are and you don't care about what other people say. And I think that's the biggest thing I say to other women is what anybody else thinks or says about you is nothing to do with you. Just focus on yourself. To the woman out there who's trying to be somebody that she's not, what are you going to say to her to pull her back into line and let her go forward on her path?
That is a great question because I deal with that so much in corporate. Like the biggest thing, corporates will come to me with is that their senior leaders aren't showing up as the best version of themselves. And the reason why that is a problem, we and companies are putting gibajillions into AI. Here's how you work with Claude. Here's how you implement this system. Here's how you implement that. Everybody's optimizing for AI. I am optimizing for humanity.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
100%. What is going to start happening in the next 1 year, 2 year, I don't know how long we've got, is we all going to be able to work with AI. Everybody's going to be doing the same AI slop and producing the same AI crap, right? So the thing that is going to be our advantage is our humor advantage, our human advantage, our personality advantage.
Yeah.
So to that lady who is sitting going, how do I embody that? And I'm maybe not older. I maybe just started my career. The sooner you can get in touch with your superpowers, embody that highest version of yourself, and fall deeply, madly, gorgeously in love with what you are capable of, the quicker you will find success.
Yeah. Now, it took being held up at gunpoint for you to actually turn your life around and say, I'm going to enjoy my life. And so often we get caught up in the humdrum of, I'm going to work, I'm paying the school fees, I'm paying the rent, blah, blah, blah. And you, as a woman, you just keep on, you're on this treadmill. And one day
Mm.
you wake up and everybody's gone and you're left alone. And you talk about the invisible thing. I met my sister-in-law who just started to get slight dementia, and she went to live with her son. And we got up in the morning and I said, oh, good morning, Mona. And she said, I'm so glad you recognize me. She said, because I feel like the invisible person here. I feel like I'm the person that nobody wants to see. And I think, especially with older women, we could become like that if you weren't really, really careful. So how can we use humor? Because I think humor is the one thing that everybody loves. Everybody loves a joke. If you put a smile on somebody's face, how can we use humor to make sure that we don't become invisible people?
I love that. I love that. First of all, that's heartbreaking. That's completely heartbreaking that, and we often we don't need to wait until we have dementia for us to feel invisible. That's the problem. That's the big issue. And the truth is we can all. That's why I say when people say, "Oh, but I'm not a comedian, can't do this sort of work." We all have something within us, a creative genius that wants to laugh, that wants to find joy, that wants to find light in the sort of work that we do. That is what humor allows us to do. So whether you're a comedian or you're not, this work is accessible to everybody because it's just leaning into that side of ourselves where we find the joy, where we find the
Yeah,
humor, where we find the light,
yes,
and
yeah,
tapping into that. At no point in the process of what I do I say, right, Margaret, we've done 6 months of training, you're going to get up on stage and you're going to do a 5-minute set. Like, no, maybe that's not where your genius lies. But what we are going to do is we're going to say, Margaret, we've now discovered this beautiful, gorgeous, authentic version of yourself. How do you show up as that now?
yeah. So
Now, and start embodying her now.
I think that going forward, that's going to be such a big thing because I know I've got a friend in Durban who teaches happiness. She does happiness training. She's fully booked. My other friend,
Mm.
Bronwyn Kilroe in Cape Town, is a laughter coach. She's fully booked. I think people are wanting to do that now because you can have everything else. You've got everything at your fingertips with AI and all these things going on, but you haven't got that joy, that happiness. It doesn't give you, AI does not give you joy and happiness and laughter in your life. And I think that's going to be the big thing that people are going to need to find to tap into themselves. And I think a lot of people are waiting for permission to be able to laugh, to write that book, to do whatever they want to do. And you're an actress. I mean, how many people don't want to be an actress? They think it's an amazing job, but they don't realize all the rejection that you've got to go through and
Mm.
that type of thing. But tell us how you transitioned from an actress into comedy and then now into business. That's one thing I want to ask you. And the other thing I want to ask you is transitioning to another country and starting a business from scratch. And I think let's start with that because to me, and I left South Africa, and we both left South Africa not because we don't love South Africa, because for different reasons. I came because I needed the adventure. You came, you started your business, but it's really, really hard coming to a new country and starting out. And it's strange to me because I went to London in 1970. I was going to go live in London, which I did for a couple of years, and then I came back to South Africa, and now I'm in America, and I'll definitely go back to South Africa. starting in a new country, especially as an older person, is really difficult because you don't have, well, you've got kids, but I didn't have kids to sort of get me into schools and that type of thing. Tell us about changing countries and how you managed to keep your sense of humor changing countries.
Oh my goodness. I mean, do I still have a sense of humor? Sometimes I think it's so hard. What was I doing? I was on an upward trajectory. And then other times I am like, and I've actually got cold shivers while I'm talking to you because this resonates so much with where I am at the moment. I look at my opportunities here and it's big fish, big pond, baby.
Yeah.
Listen, I love South Africa. I will always come back to South Africa. My parents are there. I need to give them a big fat squeeze. As I said, I'm coming back in August to work with, to implement programs for businesses and work in Women's Month. But the truth is what London has taught me, it's humbled me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you come from having an audience, having people who know you, having people who understand you, understand your humor, understand your comedy, to almost feeling like you have no one.
Yeah.
And to get out there and to start afresh in a huge pond teaches you the importance of differentiating yourself, which is the work that I do.
Yeah.
The importance of differentiating yourself, but the importance of also leaning in to that authentic genius that I'm talking about. Because the truth is there are loads, you see, now when we're talking about South Africa, maybe there's one or two happiness coaches. There's
Yes.
one or two laughter coaches.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. What I've had to learn is there is only one in the world chief comedic officer.
Yeah.
That is what moving to London had to teach me. That if I need to stand out, I need to create the title, the business, the frameworks that is not only going to move needles for South Africa and for South African corporates and for South African founders, but move needles across the globe and create change and differentiation for companies who are on that level.
Yeah.
So that was huge in terms of expansion. It's totally expanded my vision. It was very intimidating at first, feeling so small. But what starts to happen is you go, oh, I've got such a distinctive voice now that I know my lane. Yeah. I know where I'm headed. I don't know if I've told you this before. Have I ever told you about my GPS framework?
No. Tell me about your GPS framework.
So let me tell you about my GPS framework. So GPS for me stands for Guided Purpose System. And what that means is if you have a vision of the highest version of yourself, or a goal or a dream or a desired outcome that you want, and you put that into your guided purpose system, that is your destination, babes.
Yes.
When you are on your GPS and you are putting in Santon, that is you trust that you are going to get there. You know that you are going to get there. It's just whether you're going to get there through or via foot, via bicycle, or via private jet, baby. And when you set it up like this, when you set your goals with the knowing and the absolute certainty that you're going to get there, it's now up to you to decide, well, am I going to get there via foot or am I going to get there via private jet? And you know what London has allowed me to do is London has allowed me to get to that version of Claudine via private jet.
Okay, that's amazing. I love that. I'm going to borrow that one. And it's so true because
steal
I
it
always
all.
say, as Robin Banks always says, copyright. You have the right to copy me.
Yes, exactly.
But,
exactly.
Yeah, I think most women, and I always say to them, the reason you haven't got to where you want to be is you don't know exactly what you want, and you have to know exactly what you want. And I think, if, as you say, if you can put that destination into your GPS and just go towards it, it's really, really out there. But let's go back to Mrs. South Africa. You won Mrs. Personality, which I think was so apt, and you are the life and soul of every party. People will wait for you to come and say, "Oh, Claudine's here now; the party can start." It puts a lot of pressure on you, though, to be able to be that person all the time. Are you really that person all the time?
Mm, no. And when I say no, obviously I'm human. I love to have fun. I love to obviously be myself. And for me, that doesn't take work.
Yeah, and
When
you're
you
not
step
scared
it,
to put yourself out there. Happy to
no,
put yourself out there. And if
you
somebody
know, when
if
you
you fall over, somebody laughs. That's part of the story.
100%. You were, first of all, as a comedian and as an actor, you learn to fail. You get up on stage, a joke bombs, something doesn't. No means next. No means next. You learn how to see failure as data, and often, a lot of my frameworks are also centered around dealing with that sort of failure because it's so important. People don't know how to bounce back,
Yeah.
you know. Um, so, am I this person all the time? No. I mean, the sun is not shining. It is the middle of June. It is 13 degrees. I'm in my bloody jacket here at home. Um, so, do I feel like the life of the party always? No. Do I always feel like being myself, whatever version that is? Yes, because that feels effortless,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. So now you say one of the things that most people are hiding is their greatest strength. How do you actually tap into yourself to find your greatest strength? It took me many years to find my greatest strength. To the younger people out there, we don't want them to go through all that we've gone through till we find our greatest strength. How can we sort of fast track that to people who are watching this now and thinking, well, I actually don't know what my greatest strength is?
Mm, mm, mm. Um, I love that because I found my greatest strength through failure. And I know that sounds so counterintuitive to so many people, but I found my greatest strength through going on SABC with my bloody labia hanging out at the finals and, you know, having to just show up as the version of me that I would want to see in this competition. And what I mean by that is an easy way to think of it is, and if you're young and you wanted to start doing this, is how can I put myself into situations where I feel uncomfortable, where I feel stretched, where I feel like I am likely to fail. I mean, I want people to see me. I want people to see my plus size body and know that if you saw me from afar, you would never say, this chick is destined for Mrs. South Africa. But I am fantastic at putting myself in situations where I am uncomfortable,
Yeah,
most likely to fail,
yeah,
and turning that failure into an absolute win. A
yeah,
massive one, always. I didn't get top 10. I got Mrs. Personality, and which, as we said, is probably the right award for me. But what winning Mrs. Personality taught me is that my personality is my differentiator. And from Mrs. South Africa, I'm sure that the girls go on to do exceptionally well, and I love the work that they're doing there. For me, I worked with over 30 South African brands, creating content for them that were
brilliant.
my dream brands,
Yeah,
absolutely, that I would never have gotten if I had stayed in my lane. So my message to people who are young, who are just starting out, who are wanting to discover what their superpowers are, get out of your lane.
yeah,
Get out of your lane. If you're working in corporate, if you're, do something that, or if you're a founder and you're starting your own business and you don't know what your superpowers are, where to go, do something that terrifies you and be prepared to be totally terrible at it. And be prepared to look at that failure as data and turn that failure into massive wins. I stole this exercise. We were talking about stealing information and sharing it. I stole this exercise from Harvard. So what I did was I took, and I did this when I moved to London, and I still use it today, is I have a failure CV. And I put as much effort, as much, I don't even know what, into this failure CV as I would a normal CV.
And you tell them all the things you can't do.
And on that CV, I tell myself, on that CV are all the failures and all the massive wins on the back of that failure.
Oh, right. Oh, that's incredible.
And
Yeah.
when I promise you, Margaret, I'm cold shivers again. When I look at that CV, there is nothing in this world that I cannot do. Nothing. I am bloody unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to impress anyone. I say that to impress upon you, rather, what you are able to achieve when you step into that.
Yeah, because as
You
you
know,
say, personality is no longer a liability, it's a competitive advantage. So your personality is the advantage you have over everybody else. And you've got to make sure that you are, and my grandson's actually doing an essay at the moment on ethics. And he was asking me about it because I have two friends who run ethics companies. And, you've got to be ethical, you have to be authentic, but you have to be yourself and just put the best version of you out there. When you see versions of you that you don't like, how do you handle that one?
you know what? I'll tell you the versions of me that I don't like. The versions of me that I don't like are versions. So, like, if I watch some of my TED Talks, cringe. Do not link the TED Talks. I want to cringe. And the reason why I want to cringe is because I can see that is not me showing up as me. That is me showing up as what I thought it. I was young. I got asked to do a TED Talk. I knew nothing about TED. I knew nothing about keynote speaking at that stage. I knew nothing about what my superpowers were. So I presented a really solid TED Talk, but I cringe. I
Oh,
cringe. And that is what showing up as non-you feels like. It feels cringe. It feels so cringe. And, I promise you, what starts to happen is the more you show up as yourself, the more you can see and feel the difference, and the more you feel like bleh when you
mm,
don't show up authentically.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Sure. So what role do trust and reliability play in today's business environment? Because, today you have to be trustworthy. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. You've got to be really trustworthy. And, when you're teaching businesses through humor, how do you show them to be authentic, to be trustworthy, to be reliable? Today that's what's going to differentiate, take the men from the boys, because the company, as you know, the 97% of all companies close within 3 years. So how can you make it, as we have done for 47 years? People say to me, "What's the secret?" I said, to be authentic, to be transparent, and to be reliable, and people and consistent. I think that consistency, I think, is the name of the game. But I think the biggest thing is communication, and that's what you teach more than anything else. So talk to us about communication in today's day and age, when everybody is just sending you these long AI letters. We were just saying today in our meeting, we get these long ChatGPT letters, and we put them back into ChatGPT and say, please condense this into one paragraph, and then we know what they're saying. Because I got a 5-page letter yesterday written by ChatGPT from a customer.
No. And you know what? It's just that is going to start happening more and more and more. And the videos that we're watching, we're going to start watching podcasts that aren't me and you in real life. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So this is really what I am pushing. And as you say, you have built a solid, incredible almost 50-year 5 decades. I mean, that's insane, of like a quality business that you know you can like, trust, and as you say, is completely consistent. And you know what that all boils down to is the storytelling.
Yeah.
What is the story around her shows? I know for me, the reason why I find a company like Hershey's so trustworthy is I see this big family brand. It's
Yeah.
built on family values. I listen to Lucy on the radio. You
Yeah.
know, Lucy does her ads on the radio, and then I meet you, and I've met Ellen, and it really is like a family-run business who just is completely authentic, consistent, but authentic and consistent in their storytelling.
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
show to the world and how you show up to the world is the most important thing. And that's something that Hershey's has just gotten like
Yeah.
completely
Well, I
right.
always say, you don't buy from the company, you buy from the people. And we're so blessed to have amazing people working for us, most of whom have been handpicked by me. And I always say I hire for attitude and train the skills, because you have to have a good attitude. Somebody wrote to me this week and said, I've been for 2 interviews and I didn't get the job. I didn't interview her. She said, what did I do wrong? And I just said, we hire for attitude. Your attitude just wasn't the right attitude that we have to serve our customers. So when you're going into companies and you see that they haven't got the right attitude, how do you use humor to turn them around so that they get the right attitude?
Well, let me tell you something that is so relevant, because I work with companies that you'd think there's no humor. I'm talking about like BDO and banks, like Standard Bank and FNB and African Bank. And you're working with people who are thick in the corporate, or
Yeah.
thick in tax or accounting.
Accountants.
Exactly, accountants. And do you know what the truth is? Even accountants who have to sit and stare at spreadsheets, that humanity, that realness, that authenticity, that ability to tell and share their story is going to be their human advantage as well.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care what industry you're in. That's why I say this sort of work is for everyone, because it really taps into you.
Yeah.
It taps into you, your
Yeah.
skill, your
Yeah.
attitude, your personality. So I'm not dealing with, or I'm not, I want to say that I'm not teaching you anything new.
Yeah.
I'm helping you unlock and discover and embody and just like turn around and see something completely different.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
It is. And also to teach them to communicate, to be able to stand up and talk up in front of people. I have people who won't even let me take their photograph. Oh, no, I don't like to be in photos. Why not? You're such a lovely person. I want to keep a photograph of you. No, I don't want to be in photos. How do you deal with people like that? Because you know that they're putting up this fence in front of themselves, which is holding them back. It's not holding me back. It's holding them back more than anything else. How do you see that working, and how do you get them over themselves? Because that's what I always say, when you get over
It
yourself.
is. 100%. If you like, when I look at also these senior leaders, and, I'm working with like the top of the top of the top, these people are like, they're big in their companies. They've got loads of pressure. They've got, to hit
Loads of
all
money.
these, exactly, loads of money. They've got to hit all these things. And, you can have loads of money, and they've reached the success. So from the outside, it looks like it's all working.
But it
And the
isn't.
truth is, it's not, because as you say, they've built this fence. And once you are able to knock that fence down and start living and embodying that authentic version of you that wants to be in photographs
Yeah.
because you are gorgeous and sexy and
And you're
beautiful
proud of
exactly as you are,
yourself.
and
Yeah.
you're proud of yourself, when you show up as that person and the fences are truly down, then you know what life success is. Not business success, yes, business success and money success, but
Life
life
success is the most
success.
important thing.
Life's absolutely.
You can't hug a roll of money at night. I always say that's just not good.
100%.
You can't hug a good career at night. You have to have somebody to hug, and you've got to make yourself that somebody will want to hug you. It's so important.
100%. At the end of the day, you're not going to be on your deathbed and go, I wish I had another million. You're going to be on your deathbed going, I lived a full, great, incredible life because I showed up as the best bloody version of myself.
So I think human connection is going to become even more important in the future. So to people leading teams out there, I know at Hershey's we have our own culture, which I struggle to do, to get them to come to the motivation in the morning, to be able to stand up and speak. And every day we say what we're grateful for and why we're proud to work at Hershey's and that type of stuff. But it's a struggle to get them over themselves to be able to do it. Once they do, boy, then they're in the pound seats. So going forward, human connection is going to be the most important thing. What are you going to say to leaders who are leading a team, and how do they get the team to buy into that whole setup?
Brilliant. Well, you know what the truth is I don't for 1 second recommend leading with fear. But the truth is if we really look at what people are saying and where people saying that things are going, what is it that makes you irreplaceable? Because if we're moving to an age where AI can do the sales, you can have a robot standing at the front of Hershey's saying, buy this gorgeous Smeg kettle, and that works. I would really, lean into the fact that they don't want to be especially in this age, they don't want to be replaced by robots.
Yeah.
We don't want to be replaced by robots. If we don't show up, more authentic and better than the machines,
Yes.
we're going to get replaced by a machine. No thanks. No thanks. So I actually would, as a leader, I would totally encourage, people to do this sort of work now. Now is the time. We don't know what the future holds. Maybe we're not going to be replaced by AI. That would be a blessing. That would be incredible. But, like Simon Squibb, and I'm part of Simon's Help Bank community. He's this incredible, for those of you who don't know him, he goes around and he says, what's your dream? And he's, trying to create as many founders as possible and for everybody to own their own, I don't want to say real estate, but own their own company and own their own, so if you're working in a team, what is your real estate within that team?
Yeah.
What is the space that you occupy? And how do you ensure that that little space that you occupy is so integral to the group that it will never be replaced by AI?
Yeah, for sure. Now, how do you bring humor into teaching? Because it's quite difficult. You're teaching, you get involved, and you want to get them to understand everything, but you've got to bring the humor in as well. How do you do that? Does this just come off your tongue? Are you used to the jokes? I'm a great fan of Joan Rivers, and she had a whole filing cabinet full of her jokes, which she would pull out. She said, I'm going to do old people or young people or whatever. She had jokes for all of them. Do you have that sort of thing, or do you just ad lib it as it comes? Rolls off your tongue?
So when I am teaching and when I'm teaching systems and when I'm implementing systems, I've developed frameworks and methodology from years and years of doing it, of being in the room, of seeing the problems, of getting the feedback, of working one-on-one with clients and these teams. And the truth is that the type of comedy that or the type of humor and storytelling that I use is based on improvisational comedy. And what that means is that it's comedy from your creative genius.
Yeah.
Which means it's not lines that we've written. It's not anything that needs to be rehearsed. Instead, it's something that needs to be unlocked and discovered. And we all have this ability to show up as this authentic version of ourselves using these humor techniques, because all it's doing is unlocking it.
Yeah.
you know?
And the stories do unlock, because I'll know when I go to lectures and they always give you these facts and figures, and then they tell a story, you remember the story, you don't remember all the facts and figures. So what advice would you give to someone who feels that they're not really naturally funny, but they really would like to be like you are, the life and soul of the party, and full of jokes, and everybody's laughing and around you, that type of thing. And then you get the little person standing in the corner, very meek and mild, who's got all this great stuff inside of them, but they just can't get it out.
Introverts are my main clientele. I very often do not have somebody who's like, I'm on top of my game. I am functioning at my top authentic genius, living la vida loca. I need your help, right? That's definitely not, the sort of people I see coming to me. The sort of people I see coming to me are people that know that they are destined for more, that they have something beautiful, incredible, amazing inside of them that they just don't know how to unlock. So for me, I say it's a process, it's a
Yeah.
journey. Like we were just talking now about the importance of experiences,
Yeah.
especially in an age of AI. This sort of training is experiential. I do it online, but for me to be in the room, to be with the team, to be unlocking and discovering and laughing and playing together, that's where the power is.
And we
You
feed off each other's energy, because you've got energy, I've got energy in the room. That energy is contained in the room. And that's why I have my ladies groups, because I just love it, because you have so much energy. Now, you talked to us about self-censorship and playing small. A lot of people think it's very good to play small. They under, whatever they can do, they don't tell you. They tell you less, that they make out that they're less than they are. How can we get people over that? Because I mean, that's one of the big things in America. The people are really out there, but as South Africans, I find that we want to just be quiet and in the corner and inconspicuous, and then we get, we say, I feel like I'm invisible. So, but it's our own fault. How do you get us to change that?
Well, that's also about leaning into the first rule of improv comedy and improv comedy training, and the type of methodology that I use is yes and saying yes and what that means is when you show up at one of my workshops, you absolutely, or one of the trainings, you absolutely have to get involved. You have to say, rule number one is you have to say yes and rule number two is you can't say no.
Yeah. The answer is yes.
And
What's the question?
exactly, because what yes and does is yes and is like a trigger in the brain that says, I'm in this now and I'm open.
Yeah.
And if people know that they are in it now and they are
Yes.
open, it doesn't give them any room to play small, to back out, to say no, so in that situation, I would say whenever you're feeling uncomfortable, whenever you've put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, lean into the yes and.
Okay, fantastic. Now tell us, you also speak about main character energy.
Well, that's basically what I've been talking about this whole conversation is how do you show up? And I've got my main character energy leadership framework, which is all about, this is exactly what I see in big rooms and big corporates is, you've got these corporates that everybody's ticking a box, and now we've done the learning and development and we've paid for it, and we've gone to a paint and sip class, and we've experienced it on the Friday, and by the Monday we've forgotten about it, instead of actually forcing people to do the work. Do the work of yes and being able to speak up, being able to not play small, not just tick boxes. Experience what it's like to be out of your comfort zone and succeed.
Mhm.
Succeed. 100% of the feedback that I get, and honestly, it's 100% of the feedback I get, is Claudine, when I started off, that was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect. Thank you. It changed my life in some
Fantastic.
form. Yes, because once you feel, or once you experience showing up as the best version of you,
Yeah.
there's no greater joy.
Yeah.
There
But why
is
do you
no
think?
greater joy.
But so many women struggle with confidence, and they start they feel like they're confident, and then somebody says something, and they go back into themselves again. What holds women back, do you think, from stepping into their own power? And what I do is I work with them and say, a lot of, especially South African women, we live in a patriarchal society where the man is the boss. And it's never been that in my life because I grew up without a father, so I didn't understand that at all. So that's why I think the secret of my success. But I think a lot of women, and then they want to ask somebody. I want to ask, a man what I should do, and I absolutely hate that because that's what holds you back more than anything else. How do you get women to get over that and to stand in their own confidence and say, "I'm going to go and I'm going to do this"?
That's so great, because my question at the finals of Mrs. South Africa was actually very similar to that.
Oh, really?
And my answer was that I find that men in South Africa are angry, and they are angry at women. And because of this, and the gender-based violence and everything that goes on, and the hierarchy of the man, and you don't find it so much here in London, and
No,
I'm
you
sure
don't.
it's the same in America.
Yeah,
You really
yeah,
don't.
yeah,
What being here also teaches you is to step away from that structure of male dominance, and to start finding, and more so and more importantly, believing
yeah.
in your dominance,
Yes.
believing in your voice. And look, sometimes we got to start out slow,
Yeah.
and sometimes we got to fail, and sometimes we got to speak up when we're uncomfortable and put ourselves in those uncomfortable situations, and know that we're probably going to fail, or somebody's going to judge our idea, and somebody's going to think it's stupid. But from building a multi-gazillion dollar business, whatever it is, that you could not have done it if you didn't have 100% faith, certainty, conviction in who you are and what you are able to achieve. And sometimes, look, as I say, for me, I had to be told I was too large in this industry, in my acting industry, and I lived with that for years. It took me years to get over that. And now looking back, I can say, oh, if only the Claudine of that time learned how to fail faster and see
Yeah.
failure as data.
Yeah.
But I had to experience what I
You have
had to
to live through it.
experience. And you know
Yeah.
what? I had to live through it. And now I've got to own the process and own the journey. And you know what? Do you know what I truly believe? Everything happens in divine timing. It is the
Absolutely.
right time.
Yes.
So, for people who are just getting started in terms of finding their confidence, do whatever it takes to do that as quickly as possible. And,
Yeah.
as we said, that means
Yeah.
putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, being ready and willing to fail, and getting into this yes and mindset.
So tell us one belief that you've got today that would have completely that's changed you in the last 10 years. And, think to yourself 10 years ago and now it's such a big jump, that I've seen in the past 3 years. What was the one belief that made you change the fastest, do you think?
The belief that made me change the fastest, that I know now with absolute certainty that I didn't know then, was that I can do anything.
Yeah.
I can do anything. Um, and, you know, I think it's because I kept myself small in South Africa as well.
Yes.
I kept
Absolutely.
myself small. You come here and, you know, it's just, it's like life on another level almost. I'm living in this like huge, like if I thought Joburg was big, like London is quadruple the bloody size. And, it's just playing on a different level. And what happens when you play on a different level, you just
You
can
grow
you
yourself.
totally grow. But you know what? Either you grow and you become more yourself and you lock into that powerful identity, or you get left behind.
Yeah.
And
And you don't want to be there.
I don't want to be there. I'm done playing small. I'm done doing it. So the belief is I can do anything. I can do anything I put my mind to. And honestly, Mrs. South Africa was a huge, big, public, massive platform for me to test that theory out on.
Yeah, yeah, it really was.
You know, like
Mm,
the great thing about my failures is I haven't been able to hide them.
yeah, you put them all out there.
I put them all out there. I make sure that when I fail big and I fail for the world to see. And you know what? On the back of that, it means that the wins that come from it are just as big and
Mhm.
just as powerful,
Yeah.
you know?
Wonderful. Now, what still makes you laugh? Because you still laugh every single day, when we go out and we chat and you still laugh all the time. You still tell, and I tend to tell myself jokes all the time because lots of people don't, especially here in America, they have a completely different sense of humor to our
100%.
humor, which is
Yes.
English humor. South African English humor is very similar. American humor is completely different. It's lots of much more slapstick, that type of thing. But what do you tell yourself to make yourself laugh every day?
That's so great. You know what? Do you know who keeps me laughing every single day? Is my son. I've
Yes.
got like a 5-year-old, and my son he is the most hilarious person on the planet. His first word was there. And we always used to tease him and we used to say, knock, knock, who's there? So he is just so funny. And, a lot of the stuff that I have, like my methodology and the stuff that I teach and the stuff that and the work that I do the exact same exercise with corporates
Yeah.
that I
This
do
is
with
you with a
5-year-olds. That I do with 5-year-olds. And let me tell you something, the 5-year-olds are fantastic because there's no self-censoring, there's no self-doubt, there's there's none of that. There's no playing small, and unfortunately, we lose that.
Yeah.
We lose that humor. And I don't even want to say lose it. We bury it
We bury it.
because
We put
we bury it.
behind the
We,
fence.
it's behind the fence. And my whole thing is to say, it's just behind the fence. Let's knock that bloody fence down, you know?
If you could leave the audience with one message today, what would it be?
Everybody is talking about this urgency of AI. Everybody's saying things are going to change in the next 6 months, 1 month. What? Don't wait around. Start this journey of self-discovery. Start this journey discovering your human advantage
Yeah.
today.
Yes, absolutely.
Today.
It's been so super having you on the show today. I've learned a lot, and I hope everybody else out there has learned a lot as well. And I think the biggest message is just get over yourself, put yourself out there, go ahead, try it. If you can win or you can fail, and if you failed, what did you learn from that? And then just move on. If there's just one thing you want everybody to take from our talk today, what would that be? Mine is just get over yourself, but you can tell what yours is.
Yes. Mine would be that inside you may not have discovered her yet. There is a gorgeous, sexy, hilarious, brilliant, wonderful human who is dying to get out there and share her voice with the world and show up fully and show up as her most authentic self. Let her out. Let her run the show. No staying in lanes, no living behind a fence. Start today and start showing up fully as your most authentic, beautiful, genius self.
Thank you so much, Claudine. And to everybody out there, I hope you do start showing up as your most authentic genius self. And thank you so much for being on the show. If you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe.
I loved it. Like and subscribe. So
and
fun.
subscribe. And I'll see you all next week with another lovely chat. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And Claudine, thank you so much for being on my show today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It was the best.